Hi, I'm Tamara Lackey. On this Part 2 episode of reDefine show for Adorama TV, I speak with musician and celebrity photographer Gurian, and he discusses what he's thinking about well before he steps into a shoot, all the little things he has to set up when he has very little time to shoot a portrait. Check it out.
I think finding new clients and building those relationships, it's a culmination of lots of different things. For me, it's meeting people in person, and maybe connecting with them on some level. It's following up with emails and sending out promos and being active in the photo community and seeing people at photo events here and there. And people do remember you in time. So it's very difficult for me to say that's the one thing that got me that job. Sometimes, but very rarely.
It's funny, my son is 13. He's a drummer.
Yes.
He's really, really talented.
Great.
He can pick up music so fast and sing every lyric whatsoever there is. And I was showing him your site, and he saw Ed Sheeran.
Yep.
And he freaked out. He's like, oh, I love him so much. Because Ed Sheeran's like a musician's musician.
Sure.
How do you get into those kind of shoots? Like, how does that get set up for you? Or do you set it up?
Yeah, well, there's many different facets of it. Ed Sheeran, I photographed for the Associated Press.
Yeah.
Shot him in under 1 minute. It was like a 45-second shoot.
It was one of those tiny ones.
Yeah.
How many shots did you get off in 1 minute?
I think it was 16. I only know this because I was teaching here yesterday, and I actually show my class the contact sheet, if you will, in photo mechanics, so they get to see, here's the entire shoot. Because I think that's important for people to see.
It is. I don't think people
And I show them the
any
setup,
idea.
which like you wouldn't believe. I can maybe show that.
How long did it take your setup?
The email I got from my photo editor for the shoot was essentially, would you like to shoot Ed Sheeran tomorrow at like 12:15 at this hotel in Midtown Manhattan? You'll have no space or time to set up any photos, and you'll have only a couple of minutes with Ed. It was something like that.
Yeah.
And like, as a photographer, who has some experience behind them, the better part of you, me, wants to say, no, like you're setting me up for like a disastrous type of situation. And you do have to realize that any photos that go out in the world, your name is on them.
Yeah.
And that's very important to always be conscious of.
Right.
With that said, I've gotten pretty good at working very quickly in less than advantageous situations.
Right.
And I did say yes, and it ended up being a successful shoot. But we were shooting on a video set. He had like a documentary being shot of him. He had a whole crew with him. His video crew that he had with him had the whole room full of all kinds of video lighting, and it was a whole set. And I literally had half a piece of seamless paper gaff taped to the back of a piece of foam core, like a shiny board that his video crew was using as a big piece of foam core. And that was it. And my assistant was hand holding like a 3-foot Octabank right over him.
Yeah.
And it was a shoot where in the photo, Ed is holding a paper airplane. He's pointing it right towards the ends, making eye contact. And it was one of those situations where I knew I would have such little time with him, but I also wanted it to appear as though I had some sort of a connection with him, which is a very, very difficult thing to do, especially when you're dealing with people of that stature, who maybe have egos, who, when there's publicists around, all that stuff, none of that is working in your favor for you. So the night before, I sat down with my roommate at the time, and I was just trying to come up with ideas with her of like, what can I like bring onto this shoot that is like, cute and quirky and cool, but like not too out there that he's like definitely going to say no to.
Yes, I won't hold your naked baby.
Yeah. So that would be great. And paper airplanes just was something that came to mind, and I like made like 5 or 6 paper airplanes, had them in a folder, put them in like the laptop sleeve of my bag, and pulled them out on the shoot, and had a couple of photos of him just sitting in this chair that the video setup was already there. And then I pulled him in front of this backdrop, took a couple of frames just of him. They were completely like emotionless and boring photos. And then I just said, hey, I want to hand you this plane, and I just want you to like play into the lens for me and do something fun. And he just gave me like this dead stare with the lens. And then I also have some frames where he's profiled at the lens and throwing the airplane. They didn't work out, so we were on a half piece of seamless, and there wasn't enough room or time. But yeah, got off, I think like 16 frames total, and then he just shook my hand and left.
Bye, Ed, I love you.
Yeah, so that's the reality of some of these shoots that a lot of people don't realize.
What's funny about that is that you just shared an example of a shot you tried, and the way you delivered this was like, I tried it, didn't work out, moved on. Whereas this is kind of tying into people when you have insecurities about your work, and you're feeling like what you produce is tied to how good you are all the time. Recognizing that even people at the top of their game doing a ton of work will have those things that don't work out. It's a kind of a norm thing. If you want to try something new, you're going to have a lot of things that don't work out.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that can get missed sometimes, the realization that if you're not failing, that means you're not ever trying something new.
And I think you could speak to this, and I can, and Joe can, whenever any of us are in a workshop scenario or any type of public setting or even online, and you're showing the in and outs of a particular shoot, and you're showing photos that don't work out.
Yeah.
That's so valuable to people because they're like, oh, I just like assumed everything you did is great. Like,
Yeah.
no, nobody's work is great across the board. Most of our work sucks. That's the truth. Very little of what we shoot will hopefully ever see the light of day, and for good reason. That's the absolute truth. Good photos are hard to come by.
Yeah.
They really are.
And people will say that in a workshop, like, oh, good, that's a terrible shot. Thank you for showing me that.
Yeah, of course.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on in terms of what you're doing from here, given all the things you've done, how you've progressed, what's next? Like, what do you want to be doing?
So I spent the last couple of years, because of a handful of the clients that I was working for, I was fortunate to be able to build up a really strong portfolio of primarily celebrity portraits, which I thought was really cool, and I'm happy to have that, but I don't want to say I've stopped caring about that, but a lot of those portraits that I've shot have been for clients that where you don't necessarily have the time or the production value to produce, say, like advertising level work. So I've started paring a lot of that work back and out of my portfolio, and via some other clients and via some personal shoots, trying to produce some work that some of it is lifestyle work that's really, really loose and commercially oriented, I would say, and just working on some more portrait work that's, you know, not necessarily building a set, but something that's a bit larger production work, where you have really good styling, where you have
you kind of want to
the
go
right
away from the
team.
minute-long shoots,
of course,
and actually
of
sink
course.
in.
And that's the ideal to me is working on bigger productions as a whole, and some of that to me is, you know, taking a type of photography that I've done a lot of over the years, which is, I mean, music industry work. I started with live music and a lot of behind the scenes work with bands. So I have a huge archive of candid work with bands backstage, on tour, in recording studios, all of that stuff, which is cool, but that's not, and it's great editorially speaking, but not really commercially viable. So, and that is important to me. I mean, you could say, oh, that's like selling out, but no, it's like figuring out how to make a living. That's the truth. Pure and simple. So to me, it's shooting lifestyle work, and I kind of hate the word lifestyle because it's like,
it's overused again.
It's not like
It was
somebody
cool
drinking
just
a Coke and smiling
ago,
at the camera. But to me, it's like shooting something that is very natural looking, but is produced, and I get to shoot it in a very similar way that I would shoot, say, a band backstage. So I get to be really journalistic and very loose, which is very different from shooting like a produced studio portrait, which can be pretty staged. So it's nice to kind of mix those two, and I really enjoy shooting it. And on top of that, it is more commercially viable for, say, advertising work or doing work for an apparel brand, something like that. So just looking at bigger editorial magazines, you know, a la Hollywood Reporters and Vanity Fairs, that sort of thing, and advertising work in general. So I shoot a lot, and of course, just always developing new work and experimenting, which you have to do. I mean, I can't say, I have a pretty defined vision at this point, but it's still definitely growing and developing, so.
Tell me a little bit about the stories, the talk you gave here on stories and such.
Sure. So I did a talk yesterday downstairs, a seminar that Nikon sponsored. Yesterday, yes. Wow, it's been a long couple of days.
4 days ago.
I did a talk yesterday called The Quick and Simple Portrait, which is essentially, you know, on the surface it sounds like a lighting class, and it is a lighting class, but it's a lot more than, I'm not doing live shooting. I'm not like diving in and saying these are your flash settings or anything like that. It's more of like, you know, here's a handful of real world scenarios that I utilize, and also here's the stories behind those shoots, and here's the process, which I find to be incredibly important and as valuable or more valuable than like where you put a softbox, because this is about connecting with people and trying to shoot something that's not always super stage looking and something that kind of goes beyond that. So I think that's really important for people to see.
It's interesting because I think that generally speaking, you don't see authentic expression nearly as much as you think you would in the more highly produced pieces.
Agreed.
You know, and kind of bringing that together, I think, is really cool and striking, and not as norm.
Yeah.
As and so that process of the interaction and the making them comfortable and the setting it all up. Like, walk us through a simple one.
It's difficult. I mean, it really comes down to some of it for me is just pure and simply doing a lot of research beforehand. For instance, I photographed Luke Bryan for Rolling Stone, a country star. I had maybe 10 minutes with him backstage shooting portraits, and it was sort of a day in the life on tour that I was shooting for him.
Okay.
So I was shooting...
or at least the 10 minutes of that day.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I did a portrait scenarios backstage, I did a fan meet and greet, and the live show.
Okay.
So part of connecting with the people is, whoever the talent may be, is doing your research, knowing a bit about them. I had spoken to a disc jockey that I know in a country station. I'd spoken to a friend who went to the same college as him. I knew that his new single had just gotten to #1. I knew that he got a new puppy. I knew what frat he was in and where he went to school.
Wow, yeah.
I wanted things to talk about with him.
Yeah.
And also researching how people have been photographed, I find to be really important.
That's interesting. Like how they've been photographed to date.
How they've been photographed.
Yeah.
That informs not only like what types of lighting may be good or bad for them, as well as like what they might be up for. If they're going to be really rigid, or if they're going to be someone who's up for something fun and loose.
Yeah.
And that's helpful. Of course, you want to challenge yourself and do something really interesting, but that's not for everybody.
Right.
So yeah, it's just shooting people in a way that does them justice as best as possible.
Oh, I love that. And then so you're in there, you take the portraits, you've set it up, and then your production, what's your production process afterwards?
Editorially, it's pretty quick turnaround. Next day, something like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's retouching involved, which turnaround, will be a bit longer than that. But yeah, for editorially, magazines and whatnot,
You're zipping them out.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah,
it's pretty quick.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Where do people go to find out more about you and what you do and how awesome you are?
Sure, my website is just drewgurian.com. Last name is Gurian, or just @drewgurian on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff.
All the places.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Drew. Check us out here next time on Adorama TV. And while we're gone from each other, go ahead and click subscribe to get access to all kinds of glorious content.